Hi everybody. Welcome to day 4 of the live. So Caroline is going to be joining in a second. Let's see if she's joined yet. So yesterday it was all about protein packing a punch, and it was really great to see everybody's protein filled meals. It was really nice to get some new recipes as well. So today we are on day 4. Hi, Kerry. So today's the last day with our challenge as well. And what we're going to talk about today is the biggest sort of symptom that our clients present with and that women really talk about at menopause, and that is hot flashes. So hot flashes, I feel, really affect, hi Caroline, affects the majority of women. And there's a real difference actually between a few hot flashes that can wake you up at night or be a little bit annoying, and having really disturbing ones. Just to say, Caroline, if you ask to join, that should bring you in. Let me try. I've added you now, so let's see how that works. There we go. And Diana, you're on the call as well. So Caroline, I've just added you. So there's a difference between, yay, hi.
Hiya, how are you?
We've cracked the technology on day 4, everybody. Yeah, I'm good. How are you this morning?
Yeah, good. Although I am still in a jumper. I don't know about you. I was out earlier, it rained, it was cold. Might be able to take it off mid-morning, let's see.
Yeah, that fits into layering for hot flashes, which I'm sure we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I heard you talking about hot flashes, and I was just thinking that statistic, how new or old it is, where only 50% of women report that they have hot flashes. But who goes to the doctor to say, "Hi, I've got hot flashes. Might I be in menopause?" You know, how do we get statistics?
Yeah, I don't think I know any women that haven't experienced hot flashes, unless they're like onto HRT so early on. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I might have had a few who haven't had hot flushes. But I always say, what is a hot flush? Because it's not just feeling a bit hot. Some women have terrible sweats. Some women have lots of sensation with their hot flushes, don't they? You know, they're really uncomfortable. And I'll never forget, way before menopause, sitting with a group of friends. We were away it was a hen party in Spain, and it was fabulous. We were all sitting around the table, and the older ones, who were like 10 years older than us, started talking about their hot flushes. And I was just really, as a homeopath, surprised by the differences that they described. You know, some were prickling and uncomfortable. Some were like, "Oh, I drenched the bed." And some were like, "Oh, I just feel a bit hot in a meeting at work." You know, what is it? How is it for you is a big question, isn't it?
Yeah, and that is the thing where when you've got to decide whether these are just something that are a little bit annoying, but you can totally manage, versus these are disturbing quality of life. And I think that's when you know, like, I do need help. And also, I think we also need to sort of normalize the fact that a few hot flushes during menopause is something that's been recorded all through time. It's been recorded across in various medical journals, going back to the Chinese, going back to English midwives. So it's something that has been around forever, but those are the I wake up a bit hot and I kick the covers off, or I get stressed, something jolts me and I'm suddenly really hot in the middle of the day and I whip off my cardigan, get down to my vest. So yeah, I think there's a big difference between.
Definitely. I mean, for me, I had to learn to go into work earlier because I cycled into work. So it's about half-hour cycle ride. And if I didn't give myself enough time, that hot flush would come as me and my client sat down for our first session at, 8 or 9 or whatever time I was getting into work. So I had to get in a bit earlier so that I could, the ensuing hot flush from exertion and sweat wasn't what I greeted my client with. I got that over and done with, and then I could sit down and breathe and relax and have a glass of water. But the exercise was great. It's just it would bring a hot flush, and that's not a great way to walk into a meeting.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, I am in still, I'm now sort of, I don't know how far I'm past since my last period, maybe about a year. And for me, hot flashes are a bit of a warning light. They're like the warning light that comes on the dashboard of my car. And
Yeah.
when I've been pushing too hard. So when I got on
Yes.
holiday,
Yeah.
absolutely none. Where over Christmas, New Year, when I was like, I'll take a couple of weeks and potter about and, do a little bit of dabbling here and there, none. As soon as I start pushing myself too far, then that's when mine start coming on. And mine are the middle of the night. So I have quite a sort of structured routine around lots of layers. My husband, he's got the duvet, but I make it so that I can get there are three different layers, but I can get down to a
Yes.
without disturbing him, and he can be under all his layers, and I'm just sort of throwing them off. I think it's like,
Exactly. Also, I remember sleeping on a towel on my side of the bed, because
yeah,
I knew that there would be a hot flush and that it just wouldn't wake me up if I slept on a towel. So there are kind of management things definitely that we might need to learn along the way. But I do love some of the stories. I mean, physiologically, it's the liver saying, hello, I need a bit of support with toxicity and managing all these extra hormones. It's liver heat rising. We could look at it from the Chinese perspective. And so we know kind of which organ is calling us to be supported. It could be adrenal glands. There's lots and lots of this that we share on the course. And really this session today is a tiny, tiny window into everything we share in week 4 of the course, where we talk about all the different symptoms of menopause that we haven't yet focused on. So, there are loads, and that could be dryness, it could be eye problems, it could be allergies. There's lots of things that one might suffer from at some point. And what's great about the course is you're in it for 6 weeks, and we have this session on the 4th week where we talk about all these different things. We've learned a lot already in the first 3 weeks, and actually many women have seen a lot of change by the first 3 weeks. Then we get into that. So it's the 5th week of the course when we do this, we call it the wellness session, and we look at all the different possibles. And what we find is that within the 6 months of having our WhatsApp group open, women might go back to that particular session and say, oh, look, now I'm actually got these symptoms. I remember us talking about those. Let me go and find that. It's also the session where, I don't know about you, but I find that women say things like, oh, my sister should come on this course. She does that. I don't do that, but she does. And it's the bit of the course where we discover how individual we are and how our individual health history, our family history, kind of instructs what actually happens to us at menopause.
yeah. And I think the other thing about that week is when you've already been on the course for 3 weeks, some of the stuff started to subside. But anxiety, the big thing that all the women on the course initially report as dropping, that's the biggest change we see. Sleep started to improve.
Mm-hmm.
Strip away the anxiety and the sleep stuff, then there's an opportunity to kind of tune into, oh, and you know what else? Once I get rid of this horrid state of anxiety, I actually notice that my joints are aching in the morning. Or I actually remember that my mother had issues with her bones, and bones are really important to me. But I think at the start of the course, there's so much going on, and the pictures can be really confusing, and it's so overwhelming when you're anxious. But when that come down, then you can actually take the space to figure out what you want to sort out going forward. There's kind of more longer term things. Joints and bones, they're not going to remedy in a week, but what do you need to put in now so that you've got fantastic joints and bones going forward, which are obviously
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the other thing is, it's the light bulb moments where women say, oh, this has been going on for me, and I now understand it's part of perimenopause, and now I've got some solutions.
Yeah. And I think that's the amazing thing, isn't it? Having solutions, and
Yeah.
not, because it is so overwhelming. And when you're trying to pick out things off Instagram, off Google,
Yeah.
like what worked for you, and especially supplements as well. So it's so overwhelming, the information and the amount of money that we can burn through on supplements, and really have no idea if they've worked or if they haven't. And you just, people spend fortune, and you're throwing money down the drain in Holland and Barrett. So when each week of the course has got a list of supplements that goes with it, and they are designed for you and your symptoms. And we've worked out what works and what doesn't work with our clients. We've worked out the best quality supplements, because there is no point buying cheap ones. They're just, you may as well just throw it. So this kind of idea that done this work for you beforehand, so that you can basically come and join us and pick what you need, rather than just this overwhelming information that's not tailored for us, supplements that are not tailored.
I totally agree. And the other thing that I think has happened since we started doing the course, so we've been running this course for we're into our 3rd year, and the other thing is that has happened now between when we last ran the course in autumn 2025 and spring 26, this is actually the longest gap we've had between running our courses, is what's happened in between is AI. So if you get collagen supplements coming onto your feed, or what else? What have you got in your feed at the moment? It's mushrooms, it's collagen, it's creatine on mine. What's on yours?
What is on my? I mean, I don't know. I'm on some weird algorithm, and I'm just getting like crazy stuff for like industrial machinery and things. I don't know what they think they're at.
Okay, that's weird. Maybe AI's gone wonky, but basically the whole thing is that now AI is behind the conversation. So all of the social media channels have now got a different operating system, completely different operating system behind them. So we can talk about using social media, but basically what it means is that you personally need to train AI in what you want. So it's actually almost better to go on and say, I want to do my menopause naturally. What is trending at the moment, and should I be listening? So what's trending at the moment is electrolytes. That's a big conversation for 2026. We didn't even talk about electrolytes last year or the year before. You and I obviously know about minerals and electrolytes and blah, 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 and it's part of our practice. But trending, what is on. So we will be fed what we look at. I look at black cats. I'm looking after my son's cat. He's black. Well, I get my feed gets saturated. So, I went to order a blind from IKEA, a roller blind. And next time I open my social media, it shows me a doormat from IKEA with black cats on it. Would I like that as well? Because AI now knows that I talk about natural menopause, homeopathy, and black cats. I must be a witch. But my point is that our feed will get saturated. If we go and look in that direction, if you go and look at hot flushes, whatever the solution is for hot flushes this week is what you will get. You won't get no one's talking about red clover. It grows in a field and doesn't need to be processed very much before it reaches you. But red clover, for instance, is a great solution for managing hot flushes for some women. It's actually quite a good broad spectrum herb with lots of nutrients in it, and that tells us a lot. When you look at what the contents of red clover is full of calcium and nutrients that we need at menopause. It's as simple as that. Sage is in everybody's garden. We could be using that, but you won't see sage being sold as the next panacea because there's no money in it. There is money in collagen.
You don't even need to make, buy a sage tea bag. You can just go and pick some sage leaves if you're having a bit of a hot day.
Totally, yeah. And same with red clover. If you know a good field that's not got too much cow poo in it, it's like these things are available to us. And also so often, this is something I like to share, so often they're low cost. I just as a little protein, just tacking on the wave yesterday, I went to Aldi earlier because Aldi is the cheapest place to buy your food caddy bags that we have in the UK. So I go into Aldi and I always look at the cheese counter because Comté cheese, for instance, and Gruyere cheese, they don't come organic. They just come from Switzerland. That's it. And when they're in Aldi, they're a third of the price of Marks and Spencer's, which is the only other place near me where I can buy them. And I'm just saying that because I then send the message to my kids and say, hey, what about this? It's these shares, that really kind of are the glue about community, aren't they? It's like, how easy is it to make sage or red clover tea. You know, how is it? My lemon balm's gone bonkers. Lemon balm is so calming. It's such a super solution to have before bedtime if you're suffering from hot flushes. It
Yeah.
soothes the nervous system. It nourishes the adrenal glands. Yes, I could put it in a supplement, but I'd be paying a lot of money for it. And my little tub out the back garden is doing a great job.
Yeah, and that also in the studies, medical studies that have been done into hot flashes, which are pretty few and far between. The
Yes.
one thing that they consistently find help is an active relaxation practice, as in you consciously say, I'm going to put 15 minutes into my diary every day, and I'm going to devote that to breathwork or restorative yoga. And that is actually today's challenge: is how much can you manage to actually, how much can you manage to manage your hot flashes with relaxation work during the day or before you go to bed? And can you diarize that for yourself so that it's no longer an add-on when you remember, but that it is actually a structured part of your day where you block out your diary or you write it on your fridge, and you make sure it happens. Some people that can be when you get up in the morning, because otherwise it's not going to happen because your day catches hold of you, or last thing at night. But I just find it really interesting that we are sort of sold this like hot flashes, you're not allowed to have them, go on HRT straight away. Whereas in fact, science says hot flashes, they're caused by us being too stressed. And that's the
Absolutely. Guess what I did when I got off my bike? You know, when I arrived at work, I made time to sit, you know, to regain my composure, do a bit of breath work. And I've even done breath work, you know, at the bus stop on a hot day. To, you know, and it's great when you talked about stress. You know, I just was thinking I'm way beyond menopause, like 10 years, I think it is, or maybe 11. But I will still get the glimmer of a hot flush occasionally, and it's always stress. It's always doing too much. It's always like working late. I haven't really had them from food or drink, alcohol, etc. It's not really happened. It's stress. It's doing too much, and then I'll be like, okay, that's my indication to put back in some of the things that I learned during menopause. So this doesn't go away. You know, it's not just a one day wonder. It's like this is wonderful things that we can put into our life going forward as well.
Yeah, and also, hot flashes have got a purpose. Our whole body's recalibrating to a new hormonal system. And there's evidence that women that have hot flashes have a better cardiovascular health post-menopause. Now, again, that's talking about the minor hot flashes that are a bit annoying, not if you're like incredibly dysregulated, pouring buckets of sweat and having a terrible time. But it's a protective mechanism for the blood vessels. It's like exercising them, pushing blood through in this very rapid way. So there has to be, because we see it reported back in medical journals that, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, we know that there is an evolutionary purpose to it. So pushing it, drugging it is not the thing to do. What is your body telling you, and how can you support it? So how can you cool down once a hot flash starts is really the trick. And I
It
think
is, it is, yeah. And I just wanted to add that, you know, we see when we have a fever, it's about burning off the pathogen, the protein, etc. You know, so that you know there is a function to heat on many levels, heat in the system. And I have a friend who's a family constellations therapist, and what she explored was rage. Where's the rage? You know, where's the rage in my life? Where have I suppressed my anger, my irritability, my rage in order to be, you know, the estrogen yes woman? And I was like, yep, absolutely.
well,
There's some
really,
very interesting explanations.
yeah. So then menopause, when your estrogen wears off and you get increasingly annoyed, and yet you're told, keep it in, keep it down, you're a woman, don't make a fuss. It's very alarming to my family when I get irritated about stuff. Last night I was getting shushed by two of them because it's uncomfortable when there's a woman in your house ranting about something that's really annoying in the news. So
Yes,
yeah, I can see
there's
why I
plenty of that.
was doing hot flashes last night, because I was furious and I
Yeah,
didn't know to push it.
exactly, exactly. So should we do a bit of breath work? Super simple.
Oh,
And I thought actually, if we, that if in the challenge, if you proceed the breath work, and obviously we'll be back in over the next couple of days to, have a look and see what your conversations are around this. But if you proceed it with that fabulous 6-point lymphatic drainage, as a really great reset at the end of the day as well. So end of the day, middle of the day, beginning of the day, we can do breath work to come into ourselves, to ground, to center, to focus. And I think it's actually in the third week that we do some breath work exercises on the course. And those are yours to take with you, to maybe explore further, or to just say that's just a great reset wherever I am. I just come off a Zoom and it's been busy and chatty, and I'm a bit like, okay, breath work, coming back into ourselves, fundamental. So should we do a little guided? Yeah, cool.
it'll be disturbing, so I'm just going to watch because I was like making
All
faces.
right. I hope my front door bell doesn't buzz or something else. I should switch it off, really. Maybe I'll go and do that. Just 1 minute.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good. I will read a quote from Yi Zong Jing Jiang, if I haven't read this already. When a woman approaches 50, the heavenly dew dries up and menses cease. The sea of blood becomes empty, and the remaining heat surges upwards. The heat rises to the upper part of the body. Wisdom opens day by day, and she is transformed into the image of a wise woman. So that energy coming up to the heart chakra, expanding the heart chakra, and turning us into wise women. I like that as an ancient purpose.
Beautiful. Yeah. I love it. Although I suppose I'm worried about the drying up, and that's a whole other conversation. That is something we cover in the fifth week of the course, this wellness session. And it interested me just talking about the, things like vaginal dryness, discomfort, etc. There's a lot of great information around that in the natural space, and we're well versed in talking about that, and actually new things come into that conversation all the time, which is great. We're constant researchers in this, but it did surprise me when I was facilitating, doing menopause talks for the Meno Heaven retreats, and the very first retreat I did, I said, what are women asking about? And actually, that was the biggest question, was things like vaginal dryness, irritation. And so this sense of inner heat that we have, and the recalibrating that we go through. And then some very real, I suppose, early warning signs about that we need to listen to, but some amazing solutions within the natural health space. So that put me onto my toes, in that particular retreat, was I need to talk about something that actually I don't get asked a lot about in practice at that point in time. Now, is that because women are hesitant about coming forward? Is that because women are they don't recognize the symptoms as being associated with perimenopause? Is that, so personal? And there were women who were having a lot of pain with sexual intercourse and were really upset, quite rightly so. And so there's a lot of kind of information, support, being in community. I mean, that is one of the great things that we bring to the course, and so do have a look at that. Look at the link down, I'll put down below, for the course, because our early access tickets are only open this week, and the course starts on the 28th of April. So just to say that if you miss a session of the course, the live sessions get recorded. We've got video sessions which are yours to watch for the 6 months, and live sessions get recorded. So we do have people who find it difficult to attend at those times, but they know they can catch up. And then there's the WhatsApp group to communicate. So, community and support is huge. Understanding that what you're going through right now is personal, but it's there to, talk to you about what might be down the road in the future.
Yeah.
And to gather support for that, both on the physical level, but also on the DHEA inducing friendship level.
I just think it can be difficult amongst even if you've got alternative health friends, that it's really difficult to find anyone else who's wants to do menopause naturally or is interested in
Yeah,
leadership.
can
So
be. Yeah,
you're very,
absolutely.
and hence why you end up spending a lot of time on the internet and Instagram looking for advice, because there isn't the community. So the course does really provide that, and some people have gone on to meet up and to make friends
Yeah.
from geographically near.
So it's so lovely. The other thing that I will say about I suppose where groups of women find themselves on HRT and they're like, what are we doing? We do get women on the course who want to come off HRT, or it hasn't fixed everything, and I think those are really important things to acknowledge as well, that, we might need support because of the choices that we've made. So let's do a bit of breath work. For this, I suggest that you, wherever you are, we're just going to do a few minutes, wherever you are, you get in touch with the soles of your feet on the earth. So whether you're sitting in a chair watching this, or you're sitting cross-legged on the floor, or you're curled up on your sofa, just become conscious of the soles of your feet and the contact with the earth. And if it's the sides of your feet, because you're cross-legged, then just become conscious of the soles of your feet, and your contact as you walk across the earth is the soles of your feet, and that capacity to give it back to the earth. So if you feel comfortable, close your eyes and become conscious of the soles of your feet, and just allow your breath to come and go. And think about the breath as it comes into your body as being refreshing, replenishing. And as the breath leaves your body, it's an opportunity to let go, to breathe a sigh of relief, to drop any tension in your body. And with your eyes closed and that consciousness of the connection with the earth, just inquire, is there anywhere in your body where it feels a little tense, uncomfortable, tight? And for me at the moment, it's actually between my shoulder blades, inside my left shoulder. So have I been carrying a bag? Do I need to let go of the weight of something? And then as the breath comes in, breathe in to the top of your lungs. And as the breath goes out, we're going to begin to pause the breath on the way out, so that we breathe out in like 3 sections. And you might think of those 3 sections as relating to your spine or the lungs themselves. So as you breathe in, fill the lungs with that fresh, replenishing breath. And then as you breathe out, pause, and then breathe out a bit more and pause, and breathe out a bit more and pause, and breathe out fully. And then breathe in again. And as the breath slides down and out of your body, pause, and let some more breath out and pause. And then let all your breath out, remaining conscious of the passage of the breath as you breathe in again. And breathe out and pause. Breathe out and pause. And then let all your breath out. And this time as you breathe in, be conscious of the belly, relaxing, feeling comfortable. As you breathe into the top of your breath, and then breathe out and pause. Breathe out and pause, and let all the breath go. And just be conscious if there's any area of tension, can you breathe into that? Top of the head, the back of the neck, and then breathe out and pause. Breathe out and pause, and then let all the breath go, and any tension, any darkness, send it out to the green outside. The trees love that. receiving your spent breath. And then just allow your breath to come back to its normal rhythm. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. So that is super simple. We've just reset the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous systems, and they are in better calibration than they were. So, come back to this, try it over the next few days and just notice, if there's an area of tension.
Thanks, Caroline. We've got a couple of comments. Inga is asking about cold flashes.
Unusual.
Yeah, Joanna says as well, she finds that she's getting really cold in the evenings. And she's assumed it's tiredness and hunger, which it definitely could be, Joanna. Yeah, so cold flashes. You can get very hot in a hot flash and then be really cold afterwards. There can be a real temperature drop, and that can fit with that's quite a good homeopathic remedy picture if you get a sudden chill at the other side of it. What other thoughts do you have on cold flashes, Caroline?
Hypothalamus.
Yeah.
So I would say, there's an axis that the hypothalamus sits in the middle of, and it's to do with adrenals. So anything that we've talked about, lymphatic drainage, even second day, we looked at light. Getting out in the daylight is really important. These things that help to, as we've just done with the breath work, recalibrate the response. So our response to the world is the sympathetic nervous system. Something's going on, we rush to meet it, and then the parasympathetic nervous system says, hey, calm down. And if those two are out of balance and we're in an adrenally stressed state all the time, that will drive the hot flushes. And I would say behind all that, yeah, and I do think something like Epsom salt baths, which we haven't talked about at all, but Epsom salt foot baths might be nice in the evening with cold sweats. They are less usual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting cold is off the picture as well. Very.
Yeah.
I think people jump to the thyroid, but really it's often your adrenal function. So something to watch, because Joanna was talking about, she really related to the rage part as well, which I know we also have yesterday. We were probably in a place where there's a lot of high energy in your home, Joanna, I'd imagine. Being kind to yourself, coming back and doing these kind of practices whenever you can.
Yeah. I mean, hyperhidrosis generally, so sweats that are beyond menopausal sweats, then we would be looking at the thyroid. But in the middle there, in that axis, it's usually exhausted adrenals, imbalanced hypothalamus that leads to the conversation around the thyroid being under functioning. So definitely, cold sweats, cold feet, persistent cold chilliness. We're looking at the circulation. So many solutions for this. I really like at the outset things like the dry skin brushing, the natural skin brushing, the hot and cold showers. Reminding your system how to calibrate efficiently. Those can really help. I cured really, really cold feet, like ice block cold feet, that I did have. See, this is why we take the timeline as well. When I was a kid, I got bad chilblains. I would get really cold feet. It was the 1970s, didn't have central heating, probably had patent shoes or something, so my feet weren't getting warm enough. But I used to get chilblains and I used to get cold feet as a kid. That didn't really become an issue until I went through menopause and my thyroid was low. And I went for a long walk and I could not warm up my feet. It was in the winter, my feet were like blocks of ice, and I had them right next to the fire. And I was like, wow, I've not had this since I was a kid. Actually, maybe the signs were there that this potential for thyroid weakness was there then. So you're going to need to look after that when it gets older. And what cured it completely, sure, I was taking remedies alongside, but the biggest thing was dry skin brushing with a natural bristle brush, hot then cold showers. absolutely, recalibrated my capacity to adapt to temperature.
Yeah, and I think something I've seen in clients with getting cold extremities is iron levels, particularly if you're
Yeah.
losing a lot of blood around
Yeah.
but not to take iron, but to take it homeopathically, because taking a lot of iron when we're actually in full menopause, if we're already eating meat and we're eating vegetables that have iron in them, so we should be getting iron from our diet, it's a bit difficult. So homeopathically is always a great way to take iron.
Yeah.
Homeopathic salts, which we talk about on the course as well. So yeah, look at what you're eating and absorbing for cold feet.
Yeah.
And then Diana, she loves the breath work. She's a yoga teacher. She recognises how hard it is to fit it into a day. So that's good to know
Yeah.
that the teacher also struggles with that. And someone was saying they always wear barefoot shoes. So that sounds nice for spreading your toes and getting really all
Mm, mm,
into your toes.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, look, we talked about quite a lot today, but tried to keep the focus on that kind of inner heat that can come up as one of, many menopause symptoms, officially 34, but sometimes 90. So this is very much what we talk about in week 5 on the course, the wellness week. And it may be that you get some of those symptoms, maybe that you get all of them. I certainly dipped into all of those 34 symptoms, which rather surprised me. But, sort natural throughout. So if that appeals, come and join us on the course. It is fantastic. We get, so we're trying to meet those pain points that women suffer with natural solutions. And yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah. So thank you for joining today, Caroline. Thanks for the breath
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, and thank you for 4 days. I mean, those of you that have been committed and put posts in, we love it. We love it. Are we going to look at prices?
Well, we've got one more set of posts to do because today's challenge is what do you do to cool down at menopause? So I will be posting a photo of my tower fan, which I love, blows a tiny little breeze, doesn't wake anybody up. So if you've got something you do to cool down at menopause, we would love to see it. And then I think tomorrow on the groups we announce the winner of the box of goodies.
Perfect. Yeah, love it. Great idea.
We'll do that tomorrow. And yeah, we would love to see you on the course. So we have a website which is naturalmenopausecourse.com. And yeah, love to see you there.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks everyone, because we really appreciate it. It's actually there's some fun things as well, which I've loved.
Yeah, it's been great.
Cool. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Bye bye.